An ender's new beginning. It doesn't sound crazy innovative, but it's quite interesting. It's very open-ended, which is nice as well. I think for this jam, I'm leaning towards making a platformer because it's kind of weird. So I spent a long time making those platformers for other game jams when I was younger. And then after all of that, I ended up making my platformer series, which is what I've been focusing on over the last year mainly. But I still haven't made a game using that entire system I made. So I could try that. That is one of the things I'm looking forward to doing, likely. Aside from that, I haven't got too many plans. How's the audio and stuff, everyone? Is all working good? So I think for this jam, I just really want to focus on making a game that's not only fun to make, but that's fun for you guys to watch as well. So I'm not putting too much pressure on myself to make an actually good game. I just want to release something. Because one of my issues I had last year, and I talked about this in my newsletter, which I do weekly, is that I only end up releasing one game for the entire of 2022. So that was kind of a bummer. So this year, I want to kind of rectify that. I want to really just try and release one game every month. I didn't get that for January, but I've prototyped some stuff in the background behind the scenes. So I'm not too worried about that. An end is a new beginning. Let's pop that into Affinity. Swenji, hey, I just wanted to say hi, good luck for the jam. Thank you. Thanks for popping by, guys. It's crazy. Last time I streamed, I think I had probably about 300 subscribers. And since then, I've increased my subscriber rate tenfold, which is insane. So the channel is doing very well right now. It's awesome to see how much the platformer system has like resonated with people. So many people have used it in their own games now, which is awesome. Hi, good luck. Thanks, Cloudy. Okay. I'm not gonna lie, guys. I'm kind of nervous about this since, like I was kind of mentioning before, I haven't made a game in a really long time. I took part in the Jonas Tyroler's game jam over summer. That was 3 days long and I hated it completely. And then I also tried doing the Brackeys game jam, which I quit halfway through. So I just want to make something. That's kind of my goal here. I'm keeping my expectations incredibly low. An end is a new beginning. Okay, so the first thing that comes to my mind when I think about this is, you know, those like platformers where when you die, you can like leave your body behind and then you can like jump on it. I'm thinking of that. So like death is some sort of like progression. Death equals progression. Something along that. That's kind of the first idea that pops in my mind. That kind of reminds me of Hades as well, where like every time you die, you like progress the story in some way. I'm not too sure what kind of aspect of game development I want to focus on this jam, to be honest. Death equals progression. An end is a new beginning. An end is a new beginning. So yeah, I think some sort of progression, weird progression system is what comes to my mind. If it was very roguelike oriented, yeah, definitely. An end is a new beginning. Yeah, so like some sort. Another thing that comes to my mind is that like every time you die in a particular level, you don't like respawn normally, but like you still progress to the next level in some form. An end is a new beginning. I think I'm definitely going to narrow my thought process towards platformers, because I think that's definitely what I want to focus on this jam. So let's add that limitation. Let's try and just focus on platform ideas for now. Let's turn off spell check as well. Can I do that? Ignore, no. Ignore or learn spelling. There we go, perfect. Okay. Some sort of platformer game. Yeah, so ever since I released my platformer video, I haven't actually made a platformer, which is kind of weird. I made this entire system and then I kind of just left it at that and just taught it to people instead. So I think trying out that is a good idea. Recently, I focused a lot on strategy game design. That's really interested in me. So I could take some of the stuff I've learned from that as well. Death equals progression, an end is a new beginning. What other interpretations of this can we have? An end is a new beginning. The end doesn't have to be the player's life, actually. I need to keep that in mind. So that kind of opens up, like, what is ending? What can like come to a stop and then leads to some sort of new gameplay? I think the most important thing is we decide on what the core gameplay loop is going to be from the foundations. And if we can prototype that within the first day or two, that will be a great start to the jam. And then spend the rest of the time polishing up and like building on that idea. So something I've been looking into recently, and I think I might write about this in my newsletter, there's a link for that below, by the way, tonight, is core gameplay loops and how they affect game design. Because there's this interesting thing I've been looking at recently, where how the genres are kind of built around the scope of their decisions and the gameplay loops. So if we look at like platformers, for example, they're very action oriented. All your decisions are really micro. So it's like, where are you going to jump? When are you going to jump? What's like around you in the situation? Where are the enemies? Or similar in an FPS game, you'll think about where you are, where you're aiming, where the enemies are. But then if we compare that to a strategy game, the decisions are massive in scope. You'll think about way more things over a longer duration of time. So that kind of changes the flow and pacing of the game, which makes it feel very different. And then from that, I kind of feel like the best games are the ones that have layers of this like different decision scope, you could call it. So I was thinking about Celeste earlier, and how Celeste, you kind of have this 3 layers of scope. So the smallest is your normal platforming, like what abilities you're going to use, where you're going to go, where you're going to jump to. The second level, and this is what I feel really makes Celeste like click and resonate with so many people, is the problem solving aspect. Every level is kind of like a mini puzzle, and that's really interesting to solve on a sort of short to medium scale. And then on the larger scale, you kind of have the entire chapter as a whole, and you're learning how each mechanic interacts with each other. So you kind of get this like 3 layers of decisions and like thought process, which is really interesting. And I think that adds a lot of depth and strategy to your design. So if we can incorporate some sort of tiny jam scale version of that, that will be really fun, I think. An end is a new beginning. Death equals progression. What is ending? What is ending? Let's think about this question. So it could be the player's death. Or maybe finishing a level as well. That could be another approach to this. An end is a new beginning. I want some sort of very simple but also innovative core mechanic, I think. it could be very easy to play it very safe here, especially if I'm making a platformer. So I want something very unique as well. I was playing Super Hot the other day, and that game is just so innovative and so smart, especially with its marketing as well. Because it's everything in the game kind of focuses on one core purpose, which is the time only goes forward when you move. So the marketing revolves around that, the art style revolves around that, and I think that's a really impressive this like design decision, art design direction. That I believe was originally made in a game jam, a 7-day shooter game jam as well, which is very cool. Another reason I think we should focus on platforms as well is that will kind of show people how you can approach using my like system, quote unquote, my ideas, I don't know. I think a lot of people can learn stuff from that, and hopefully I can like add some more to the conversation. Def equals progression, player's def, level, what is ending? What else can we add to this? An end is a new beginning. I guess then we also can think about what is the beginning? What's going to change? How are we going to progress? I think some sort of innovated tie-in between progression and gameplay would be interesting. Beginning. I've been going through some of my itch bundles because I think for a couple like events and like charities, itch.io created these massive bundles with thousands of games in, and I've bought 3 of them, I believe. So they have some great games in. So Super Hot, like I was talking about before, Celeste, the prequel or the game before Celeste that the team made was called Towerfall, I believe. There's also Nuclear Throne, made by the people at 𝒉𝒊𝒏𝒈. Hey Arkadenda, how are you doing? So I think having a look at some of those games could be a nice inspiration. Let me find that list. itch.io wishlist, here we go. So these are the couple games that I also might try over the next few games. We've all got Pyre as well. That's made by the team who made Hades, who are now working on Hades 2. This was the game before. It's kind of like this fantasy basketball RPG character game. It's very interesting. I know NoClip have a very cool documentary about how it was made as well. Nothing here strikes me for inspiration. Some sort of minimalist game would be very cool to work on. Def equals progression, player's def. What's ending? What is ending? An end is a new beginning. Do you always enter game jam solo? Yes. So far, I've never worked in a game with someone else. That's something I probably want to change. So actually, later this week, I may see if I can find anyone else if they want to do music with me or something. That could be quite fun. I don't know. I'll probably take this game jam mostly solo, at least for all the art and programming and stuff. Though hopefully, I'm hoping to start doing game jams more regularly, and then if I can find a team to work with, that would be awesome. Okay, let's take a sip of my coffee. An end is a new beginning. Player's def. What's ending? What is beginning? Where can I find the Brackeys game jam? Let me post a link to it in chat. That reminds me, actually, let me put a pinned comment so people know what we're kind of going for here. So, okay, how can we describe this this stream? Let's see. Chilled first day of Brackeys game jam. We'll be playing some viewer submitted games later. some, let's say, subscribers, games later, as well as picking an idea based on the theme, and end is a new beginning. I think that sums up this jam pretty well. Okay, let's pin that. 𝒂𝒏𝒈 says, I never participated in a game jam and I was wondering what was the best way to start. Solo looks cool but very hard as well. Yes, I think this Brackeys game jam, because I think it's probably one of the best ones to start with, because most game jams are like 48 hours and those are stressful. Oh my gosh. Those can be really challenging. Even the 72-hour ones can be very hard. But I think I found that I've enjoyed the Brackeys and also platform prod game jams the most. I like the 7 days, gives you a lot of freedom. Though that can also be very challenging if you have like work or a lot of school stuff going on. So I'm lucky this jam has fallen really well for me just when I want to start streaming, and I have this entire week free. So that's amazing. I think just go for it though. Like, the most important thing is just make something. Don't be scared of failure. Okay. I'm hoping this will kind of like spur me on to actually live stream and force me to do it as well, which is good. Because I definitely want to up my upload rate, because currently I'm uploading 2 videos a year and I'm not sure that's gonna be great long term, so I might need to pick up the pace on that one. And I'm also going to move away from platformers, so I need to kind of work out what direction I want my channel to go in. I'm hoping to get a nice fusion of educational content mixed in with the like devlog kind of style, you know? Let's see, what's something interesting about platformers that I find cool? So let's play into my strengths. So physics-based movement. That's something I know I can do quite well. Base movement. I'm also confident in like game feel, so I've done all that before. That's all fine and good. Game feel. Game physics. Maybe some sort of physics system tied in with the theme could be a good idea. Enoch says, thanks, last time that I used to game dev was 2019 because of COVID and other life priorities I can't do it. Hope I can relearn everything again. Yes, that's great. Oh, it's a shame you couldn't do it after like COVID and stuff. I think relearning it's fine though. To be honest, like, this is kind of my first game jam in a very long time too. So I'm kind of experimenting with getting back into the game dev kind of stuff. I know I struggled in last year just working on loads of like tiny long-term projects. I kept trying to come up with like these massive commercial games that I could work on, but that didn't really go anywhere. So I think making something small and just sitting down for a week and trying to just bang out something, I think that's going to be a good starting point for me. And I think a lot of you guys should try that as well. Game jams are such a good place to start, especially in game development where making a large game can be such a commitment. Having just a small scope and a community who's willing to give you feedback immediately is great. Depth equals progression. I know that's the best idea I've had so far. So how can we expand on this? How can you express? So let's just get the normal standard ideas. I probably won't try, but out of the way. So how can I describe? So a lot of games that kind of in game jams, I believe had, wait, hold. I know someone said earlier that they've remembered this theme from somewhere before. What was the theme? I know there was a game jam where a lot of people made games where you play as a platformer player, and you die and you create like this, you leave like your corpse behind and you can jump on that. Loads of games did that for one jam. I can't remember what it was called. I remember 𝒉𝒂𝒏𝒈 made a really good game for it, if you guys know him. The theme for this jam makes me think of something I've been very interested in recently. Okay, cool, cool. Is anyone here entering the Brackeys game jam, by the way? Def equals progression. Corpse to cross level. Imagine the game is like, wow, you die. Let's make the game easier for you. But it's actually the point of the game trying to die to progress. That's quite interesting. That reminds me of Jonas Tyroller's Will You Snail, where they have like the AI and it's like mocking you the entire time. That's very funny. And I think it has like an auto difficulty system. So it'll be like, oh, what, you just died 20 times? Well, you guys can't do this. So got to lower down the difficulty a bit for you. And no, I always wanted to start small projects, but my laptop can't run Unity smoothly. I guess I would switch to Godot. Yeah, one interesting thing is that, honestly, if I was starting game development again, like from the groundwork, if I was starting right now today, I would probably start with Godot, not Unity, which is kind of weird. I think Godot, I think it's much more beginner friendly in a way, because it's very simple, it's kind of minimalist in the style. Unity feels like it's gone really chunky over the years, and that can be kind of daunting to new people. And it's also a bit frustrating. I know it takes like a good minute or two just for a Unity project to load up, and stuff like that just feels kind of annoying to work with. I don't know. Also, the way Godot is like all this, this code editor and everything is kind of incorporated into one engine, that's very cool. It's very appealing to someone who's like struggled with code highlighting in Visual Studio for so long. Hi, Studio Playesk. Corpse across level. I want something that's gonna be like simple to make as well, because overscoping is so dangerous in game jams. Oh my gosh. Def equals progression. An end is a new beginning. An end is a new beginning. You know, that doesn't have to mean progress. It just has to mean some sort of change. So let's put that up there. Maybe that can spur some new ideas, or spur some new ideas. Change. Or an idea of like constant change. This kind of reminds me of like actions and consequences as well. So like you do one thing, that doesn't work out, the game does something else, it changes in some sort of way, it's dynamic. These are all very abstract ideas though. I think we need something a bit more grounded to, I don't know, help this ideation process keep going. I found a channel that uploads Trackmania content, and there are these pathfinding cups. Basically, you have to find all the checkpoints on a map, and you can only access the checkpoint from the previous one, says 𝒂𝒏𝒌𝒔. Okay, I know Trackmania is a very interesting game, and I've heard it has a great community surrounding it as well. Geek Joystick says, yeah, first time I tried Unity, I was like, what the hell is all of this? What's a model behavior role? How do you split those coherently, etc.? A few years later, I really appreciate Unity. Yeah, definitely. I remember, so my big tip for beginners is obviously just start making things. And then secondly, if I was to give someone advice about how they would start today, it would probably involve just picking an engine and then finding some sort of tutorial series for that, and then just following that. Because I think because I used to follow Brackeys series when I was younger. Brackeys is like, he's like just the father of the Unity community on YouTube, to be honest. He's amazing. So I followed his series, and then I like adapted them and tweaked them to my own preference, to my own like design ideas. And I think that's a great way to start making games, using someone else's like foundational code and then building on it and trying to experiment in your own ways and just messing around and seeing what works. Geek Joystick says you could go the classic way and make a game where you disobey an off-screen voice. Oh, kind of like the Stanley's Parable then, yeah. But seeing the quantity of games like it would be hard to make something that stands out, yeah. I think I definitely want to try and play into my own strengths as well, because I've never written, like, actually I have written a narrative for 2 of my game jams. Those are very fun, to be honest. But my strengths as a game designer definitely lie in coding, kind of, and then also game design, definitely. I think narrative and art are not something I'm super comfortable with. I do enjoy sound design, so that could be quite fun to work with. I know my game Synthetic, which is a game I streamed in 2021, I streamed making that game. That was super fun to work on, and I got to make all these like squishy sound effects and like blood effects. It was very inspired by Ape-Out, so kind of like the vibe of that. That was incredibly fun to work on. I remember I had watermelon in my house, so I started just squishing that next to my mic, and that was amazing. The theme of the game jam first comes to mind, a roguelike game. Yeah, definitely. How you can make making a roguelike in 7 days is definitely possible, to be honest. I think the main thing with game jam games is most people are only going to play it for around 10 minutes. So you really want to make that as good as possible. So then adding like procedural generation and things in isn't super necessary. But I think taking some other ideas from roguelikes could be interesting. I should look at Splunky for inspiration. That's what I'm thinking now. Maybe we could play a couple of games of that in a bit. Brackeys is great, absolutely, though I can't follow a program tutorial all the way through without going off. Experimenting my stuff for 4 hours straight. I still remember the time I was following his tutorial on turn-based combat and I had an error. And I spent about 8 hours that day trying to work out what it was. It was probably some null reference exception or something stupid like that. But those are the good games. When you're young, you can just work on a problem for 8 hours without thinking about it. That was great. What's the exact theme? An end is a new beginning. This thing right here. It's very open-ended. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it. It's quite nice though. I think my favorite themes are the ones for the 𝒂𝒕𝒄𝒉𝒊𝒏𝒈 game jam. I feel like those are always really well thought out. Wait, I'm dumb. Oh, it's fine. Don't worry about it. But it's all on a single map, and you use a lot of ways like managing momentum that you get from checkpoint to use a part of the map you just went through but reach a different place. Momentum. That's a very good idea, actually. I think obviously I want to try and play into my skill levels, and momentum's smart. I'm gonna write that down. That's very good. Momentum and end is a new beginning. How could that tie into the theme? I'm not sure. Tomorrow's a new day, maybe Groundhog's Day type of game. That's smart as well. Yeah, an end is a new beginning. Yeah, that's a good idea. I don't think I've worked with time loops before in a lot of my games, and a lot of the times it's become a massive hassle. So I don't think I'll go in that direction. Though I think that's a very good idea for someone else, 100%. That's why it makes me think about this theme. Each checkpoint is a goal, also a new beginning of the same level, but done differently. That reminds me of a game I saw for the 𝒂𝒕𝒄𝒉𝒊𝒏𝒈 game jam, where there was a single level and you play through that level with a different character each time. So it's kind of a Metroidvania, but the skill, like each level is a new character rather than a new level, if you get what I mean. That was very interesting. And as you beginning, constant change, actions have consequences. What about a game where your momentum like carried through different levels maybe? So if you like died somewhere and like you went back there in the next run, you like gained some sort of like speed boost? I don't know. I think this game jam's 7 days long. So if I spend like 5 hours a day just coming with an idea, that's okay. That's not too bad of a big of a deal. Okay, maybe we should start trying to organize this. What is beginning? That's the question I haven't even thought about yet. We should think about that. The player's death. What's ending? Player's death. Let's add that over here. Death equals some sort of progression. Corpse to cross a level. I think that's a very normal theme in a way. A lot of people would do that, I think. It can also be a dungeon crawler type of game. Yeah, totally. What's ending? A level. So let's get some, we can definitely take some experience from roguelikes here. Oh, let's not write it out. That will not work well with a mouse. I like this kind of mix of using my mouse to draw the arrows and then typing out in text boxes. It feels like a really nice fluid way to do like ideation without having to know how to draw or write properly with a graphics tablet. Constant change, actions of consequences. So that's like another, so I think, yeah, there's definitely like an actions of consequences kind of vibe. So you do one thing, that changes something, you start again. It's kind of like gameplay loops actually. Let's write that down. Cycle of events, let's call it. Let's make that bigger. What's beginning? An end is a new beginning. So that can obviously tie back into levels, I think. Let's just put that underneath there. They kind of go hand in hand. Let's move. Oh. Let's move all of this down a little bit. Oh crap, I brought some of those with me. Let's move that there. Let's go there. Awesome. Ooh, what if every time you died, you like became that enemy? I think that's very cool. So it could be like a dungeon crawler, like you said, 𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒄𝒉𝒊𝒏𝒈. And then when you die to an enemy, instead of losing as such, you like become that enemy. I think that's very cool. I'm going to write that down as like our first main idea. Maybe it could be about a transition, a change from one state to another. The end of a first state is the beginning of a new state. Yeah, that's kind of like the enemy idea. Yeah. We could also, what other states could we have that's like, so different player abilities, different state in the world, maybe some sort of like evolving world. Player becomes the enemy that killed them. This definitely falls much more into a top-down shooter kind of thing, I feel like, though. Let's make that a new color, maybe, to outline that it's like an actual idea. Let's see. What nice color going on for this? Maybe some sort of like orangey yellow. That's our first like solid idea, so that's good. We're creating stuff like that. Seasons, yeah, kind of like that. I think the only issue with that is then that's much more art heavy, and that's definitely not my strength. So maybe we shouldn't play into that too much. I've actually made games that are very similar to this before, so I'm confident I can do the whole like enemy mechanics becoming your mechanics kind of mechanics to things. That's way too many mechanics in one sentence. Oh my gosh. Okay, player becomes the enemy that killed them. That's a solid idea. Keep that in the back of my mind. That would probably be a top-down shooter as well, so that I'm not too worried that I wouldn't be able to make that. So that's kind of like top-down shooter kind of idea. Yeah, I think that's solid. Or maybe like Vampire Survivors, but that's endless. I haven't played Vampire Survivors. I've heard a lot about it though. It looks very interesting. And it kind of scares me to try out a game like that, because I feel like I'm just going to get hooked in completely. Why could this be a good idea? I think this is a good idea if we innovate on it in another way. So let's leave it at that for now, and let's come up with some other ideas and then come back to this one. How about we like completely revert our direction, focus on something completely different? What is ending? What is beginning? Level, roguelite, player's death. Death equals progression, corpse across the level. Oh, actually, another reason this could work quite well is it kind of makes the game easier, because if the only way you can die is by like progressing in some way, you can't really lose. I mean, creating a lose state for that could be really interesting, a really cool design problem. Okay, let's have another sip of the coffee. Lovely. Cycle events, constant change. Let's change that to event driven change. That sounds very fancy. So one thing happens in the world and that causes something else to happen. Anything has a beginning and an end. If we're at the beginning and the end is nearby and the beginning afterwards. That sounds very like philosophical in a way. I get what you mean though, yeah. Wouldn't this this idea push people to suicide on cool enemies? Possibly. That would be another like interesting decision to make. They'd have to be like downsides to being an enemy. So there has to be some sort of limitation, I think, on this idea. We'd have to come up with some sort of limitation, some sort of puzzle element in the way. I think this has a lot of potential though. That has some fun art challenges and sound effect stuff as well, which could be really cool. An end is a new beginning. An end is a new beginning. What about a game where the way you finish the level affects what that level will be like next time? So it could be like a one level kind of game. So let's maybe, can we create some sort of add color to swatch? Let's do that. Colors, swatches, here we go. Okay, cool. So this is kind of like our color palette now. Precision platforming with the orange idea. Yeah. How could that tie into a platformer? Let's write that down. Let's come back to that later. Oop. Let's come back to this. So how would this be a platformer? Because yeah, let's keep in mind that I want to make a platformer this jam, not a top-down shooter. You have to be killed with enemies in a certain order in order to accomplish the challenge. That's a good idea, yeah. Let you jump, get killed, can fly, get killed, can ground pound, etc. Yeah. I think adding a limitation like that will be really important. Some sort of limitation, question mark. Let's do this all very open-ended for now. Let's not rush into this too much. Event-driven change, actions have consequences. Level is dynamic. It can change over time. Instead of the entire player changing as well, maybe your abilities change in some way. So you could like take on the abilities of the enemy you kill rather. Or the enemy that kills you, because end is a new beginning, yeah. Take on new abilities. Some sort of like evolution system in a way. End is a new beginning could justify the level resetting itself, love. Yeah, definitely. Again, that kind of goes back to those like roguelike kind of ideas in a way. Roguelikes without all the procedural generation things. Procedural generation is another thing that I've actually looked at a lot recently. It's really interesting. I wrote an entire article about Minecraft's world generation, which has become so interesting because they completely redid it all in 2021, I believe. And it's so interesting the way they do the biome mapping and the height generation and create these like massive mountains and things. Yeah, I really like this idea of becoming an enemy. Yeah. Would it work if you became the enemy when beating instead of dying? I'm not sure. I think having you die and then become the enemy kind of works for the theme slightly better, though it could definitely be like a balance issue. So I think having some sort of limitation involved is really important. An end is a new beginning. Okay, we're 43 minutes into the jam and we already have a pretty solid idea, so I'm really happy with how this is going so far. If we could maybe find another interpretation of this theme that like synergizes with this idea and helps like resolve the problems with it, that could be good. Player becomes enemy that killed them. So how can we make this a platformer? How can we balance this slightly better? Limitation to balance. Player becomes the enemy that kills them. Okay, let's stop imagining, or let me, I need to stop imagining it as a platformer or as a top-down shooter and instead think about it as a platformer, I think that. So how would that work? How would maybe the enemies have some sort of like influence on how you platform? Player becomes the enemy that killed them. How can we keep this very elegant as well? And could be a positive outcome as well, like winning the game. Yeah. I think having losing kind of be progress, I think is going to be a really fundamental part of this idea. Death equals progression, that kind of ties into that. Maybe, oh, I don't know how that would work though. You know how like Super Mario Odyssey, where you kind of take on the role of different enemies to like use them as platforming? That could work. The enemy design will become super important then. You could choose to either kill an enemy and trigger something, or be killed and become the enemy. Yeah. Definitely. I think definitely having that trade-off is really important. That limitation almost. Trade-offs. Oh, neon white. That's very true, actually. I should look at that game for inspiration. That brings in the momentum and like speedrunning aspects as well, what really well platformers. Okay, so imagine this platforming game where you're trying to speedrun through a level, and then if you get killed by an enemy, you gain their abilities, and that can help you finish the level faster. Ooh, that's juicy. I like that a lot. Neon white, inspiration, take movement of enemy, take the movement of enemy that kills you. Okay, how can we, let's think about how can we display this well to the player? Because this is a jam, and generally having a game that's really easy to read when you're watching it is really important. So another game I've been analyzing recently is Into the Breach, and a couple of people have made really interesting videos on this. And let me show one of them actually, because I was talking to this person a while ago and he was really interesting. Let's go find this video. Of Into the Breach. So first of all, Adam Miller's game is really interesting on this, but I was talking to this person, Game Design Thinking, earlier, and he was really interesting. So this kind of talk about how Into the Breach is kind of this mix of problem solving and puzzle design, and it has this really interesting information problem. So everything in Into the Breach is telegraphed. You can always see what's going to happen on the next turn. And so you kind of get these fun puzzles where you see what the enemies are going to do. The enemies in this game, they attack buildings rather than your mechs, and you have to like push them out of the way of the buildings. It's a very, very good game, and I highly recommend Into the Breach. It's really fun. It's almost chess-like in its puzzles, and that's super, super interesting to work around. So having a game that's elegant, that's something I want to work on. So the enemy attacks and the movement have to be tied in some way. So how can we telegraph this? So, okay, let's make a new artboard here in Affinity. And let's focus just solely on this concept for a while. So, become the enemy that kills you. That I like this idea. It kind of has the same like vibe of the super hot marketing, where it's like time only goes forward when you move. There's something, it's a bit more elegant, the wording they have, but I think this idea should be very simple to get across if the enemy design is right. That's kind of the big catch here. The enemy design has to be perfect. Pizza Tower. You explore the level, kill the thing in the end of the level. Turns out it's not the end, and you have 2 minutes to escape the level as fast as possible. I heard about that game recently. I think NoClip. I think they made a video on it. I know nothing about it, to be honest, but I've heard it's been some like breakout indie success. Is that right? Become the enemies that kill you. become the enemy that kills you. Okay. Okay, let's think about all the ways we can interpret this specific theme now. It's a really cool game. Yeah, it's the first game that sold a bazillion copies. Okay, so platform speed running. I think making a speedrunning game will be really fun. That will like give me nostalgia back to Cosmos. That's the first game, or the first commercial game I've released, and also the only commercial game I've released, but progress nonetheless. And now get me to like flex all the platforming stuff I've learned over the last few years. Platformer speedrunning. Okay, so let's build up this like inspiration side as well. So we've got Neon White so far. Neon White is a game I really need to play at some point. There's so many games I need to play right now. Oh my. I bought Elden Ring over Christmas and I only have like 3 hours in it. I'm kind of scared to start playing that game though, because like it's such a big commitment, like 80 hours to, and you can put 80 hours in and still not have even seen the good part of the content for the game. It's crazy. Platformer speedrunning, become the enemy that kills you. So how are the enemies going to attack? Oh, let's lock this now. Affinity design is so good. I can't recommend it enough, honestly. And it costs £50 around, so I assume that's about $60. And it does everything Illustrator can do, as far as I know. Well, pretty much, it's basically Illustrator, let's be honest. And it only costs £50 compared to Illustrator, which is like £12 a month, I think, for eternity. That's a really good deal. Your platform video is really useful to me. I read your movement code all the time because it's the best I found. Usually I code everything myself, but this is the solo section. Thanks a lot. Oh, that's awesome here. I love seeing stuff like that. It's just really awesome to see that it's actually like helping people. It's also kind of ironic considering I haven't used my own platformer code, but hey, hopefully we can rectify that. So one thing I want to show this jam is how, first of all, when I'm making a platformer, I probably won't go in and use my own code. I'll just do something really simple, kind of like what I was talking about in the video, where you just set the movement to a singular, like a constant velocity when you're starting out. And then once I have the core, like innovative gameplay that's going to make my game unique, then I'll go in and add all the game feel to the movement, that kind of thing. Platformer speedrunning, become the enemy that kills you. So how do the enemies kill you? How do enemies attack? Okay. One shot kind of a deal. Yeah. I'm trying to think. So the enemy's attacks, they have to be movement based and they have to work well with the player. So there's kind of a lot we have to think about here. So let's not do an arrow for this actually. Let's delete that, delete that. So movement based can be used by the player and easily readable. They need to be easily like able to understand at high speeds. Imagine D type and D, what does that mean? Type of enemy which can jump really high and ground pound really hard. Ground pound, yeah, ground pound's good actually. So we've got ground pounds, dash attacks as well. How does Neon White do it? I believe so. Neon White is a first-person shooter, so each card has movement ability and it has some sort of like gun related. So we could do that approach. That would work. Though I think trying to keep the movement, if it's a platform, I think keeping the movement and attacks tied in with the movement tied in with the attacks, I think that's quite good. Readable. King DD from Kirby. Oh, okay. I've heard of Kirby. I haven't heard of the other guy. Same for me, Joyce said, I really like the series and how Adam addressed it. Thank you. It's really cool seeing how like this thing that I spent like a year or whatever, like slowly building up this like platformer movement thing, and seeing that it's actually helping a lot of people now is so cool. I know it's kind of cool thing about like I think at this rate, someday there's gonna be like this massive indie game like Hollow Knight or something that comes out and they're like, oh yeah, they use my movement. That's gonna be if that happens, I'm gonna be so excited. Who's hyped for Silksong release 2023? Fingers crossed, maybe. Ground pounds, dash attacks. How do enemies attack? Become the enemy that kills you. Oh, I'm starting to feel like, I don't know, would this work with it in a platformer setting? It must do. I'm sure I can find some sort of way to tie it in really well and neatly. I would really like to understand the maths behind the movement code. I'm kind of lost with the mathf.power, etc. We'll try to understand it someday. I recommend having a look at my more recent videos rather than the old one, because the old one, the maths works, but it's also kind of a bit clunky, and it's some of the things in there are unnecessary. I believe I took the mathf.power section out of the movement in my more recent version, so have a look at that. I'm hoping to update the movement on GitHub at some point as well, and hopefully just make it a bit better to understand, because I kind of rushed it out for the 2 more recent videos, so I want to go through and like make it really good for long term. Become the enemy that kills you. An end. Let's go back to the theme. An end is a new beginning as well. Let's not forget this. Okay, I really like how these two tie together. I think that works really good. An end is a new beginning. Oh, I'm liking this theme now, you know? I'm liking this. Okay. Become the enemy that kills you. Platformer speedrunning. How do enemies attack? Platformer speedrunning. You know, if this works out, we could have some sort of like speedrunning competition. I've been thinking, because I really like building the community over on Discord. That's super fun, and I just love doing that. So I'd love to host some like community events. So I was thinking chess has become really popular recently. Having a chess tournament, that could be kind of fun. If I make a game about speedrunning though, having a running tournament could be awesome as well. Become the enemy that kills you. I'm tempted to take a break in a second and just run through this idea in my head for a few minutes. Oh man, that'd be really fun. Yeah, I think that would be awesome. I love the community aspect of YouTube. It's just so cool. That's why I want to start live streaming more as well. So if I can maybe do like a weekly live stream where I play you guys' games, that would be amazing. I think it'd be a good way to help move my channel, like kind of with the platforming theme which I've built up, but then also into a new direction where it can be more focused on game dev and creating things as a whole and not just platforming games. Because I don't actually see myself making a commercial platformer game ever again, which is kind of weird, considering as I spent so much time learning about it and trying to teach it to new people. I don't know, I feel like the platformer genre has become so oversaturated in the indie game market, it's kind of hard to stand out nowadays. So that's why I'm trying to move towards strategy games as well, since those are generally not explored as much, but they're so much harder to make. Oh my gosh, I'll talk about that another day. But designing strategy games is so much harder than the platform, it's crazy. 𝒂𝒏𝒈𝒏𝒈 says again, I love Into the Breach, and the talk about postmodern design around the game at GCC was amazing. Oh my god, I love that video so much. Yeah, the postmortems from GCC are so interesting. I know that they did one for FTL as well. That was really good. I wish I had the time and motivation to make videos now, but I'd also need to have projects I can actually share. Yeah, that's definitely something I'm really scared about in the future, to be honest. Like, let's say, especially since, like I was saying way earlier in the stream, I only made one game last year. And so if I didn't do the platformer thing, what would I make content about? That's kind of like a scary realization. So I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to approach that in the future. It's kind of like, I'm going to try and do a game jam this week. Hopefully that will go amazing and everything will be amazing into the future, you know? If that doesn't work and I don't like make too many games this year, then I don't know. We'll see where my channel goes, I guess. I've been really interested in storytelling recently as well. I started reading this year far more. I've been getting into the fantasy things there's this author called Brandon Sanderson. He's really interesting. That's definitely something to talk about, a completely another stream though. Like, I can go so in depth on that. Storytelling has become really interesting. Storytelling tied into video games as well, like story generators. Dwarf Fortress released at the end of last year. That's super interesting. I need to play that at some point. RimWorld as well is another amazing game. The designer behind that, I read his book and his book is awesome. It's called Designing by Games by Tynan Sylvester, I think that's his name. He also has a GDC talk about how RimWorld was made and their design philosophy behind that, which is super interesting. Rooting for you on the game, Jan, then. Haha. Thank you. This is so exciting. This is so fun. I love, because when I streamed last time, I was super stressed because I was trying to make this like amazing game. That's kind of one of the issues I do have with the Brackeys game jam, is that because you have 7 days, I feel like I have to make something amazing. But you know, this time I'm actually kind of chilled about it. Like, my stress is more on making sure the stream, everything goes well. And so far it's going awesome, so that's great. I know streaming is kind of weird in the sense that, unlike in real life, the more people you're generally speaking to, the more awkward it can be, and like the more difficult. Like when you're making a speech in front of hundreds of people, that's scary, that's nerve-wracking. When you're streaming, however, it's way more scary to be streaming to absolutely no one, have no one to like bounce ideas off of. So it's awesome to see you guys so active in chat. That's so helpful. Thank you. Okay, I think I'm gonna take a short break for like 5-10 minutes, come back and hopefully start taking this idea in a new direction. Okay, let's put on a nice animated background for a while. Okay, I will see you guys shortly. Let's switch to back soon. Okay, I'll see you guys in a bit. Okay, hey guys, I'm back. To be honest, I'm still really struggling with this idea. So for anyone who's just joined, okay, let's head back to the main display and let's head back into Affinity. Okay, so this is the idea we have so far. The theme for the game jam is an end is a new beginning. And so my take on that is that when you die, instead of just going straight back to the start of the level, you actually become the enemy that killed you. Let's bump up the music a tiny bit as well, because I heard that wasn't loud enough. Okay, is that slightly better? Okay, I think that looks good on my audio charts, whatever. Let me know if that sounds good. Okay. Become the enemy that kills you. I really want to make a platformer, but I'm not sure how exactly this is going to tie into that. If anyone has any ideas about how we can like link the movement kind of platformer side of things towards enemy design, that would be very, very useful. Okay, let's also knock off an hour on saying 6 hours and 22 minutes remaining. And yes, I'm doing that manually because I have no clue how I'm going to set it up to do it automatically. I was hoping initially to have like a progress bar kind of thing at the bottom that shows how long we have left in the jam, but I have no clue how to set that up. Okay, maybe let's think about what kind of momentum system we want to go on. Physics-based movement around game feel. Let's just start up a new project for now. That'll be useful to have later. 𝒘𝒂𝒕𝒄𝒉𝒊𝒏𝒈 said, good luck for the game jam. I can't wait to play your games. Thank you. Oh, this is really exciting. Ooh. I haven't worked on a 7-day game jam in such a long time. This feels so refreshing. Okay, Brackeys game jam 2023 part 1. 23 but 1. Create project. Did I select? I hope I selected 2D URP. I definitely want to use like all the universal render pipelines things later on. If not, that's fine. I can sort that out at some point. Platformer, physics-based movement, game feel, momentum, event-driven change. I'm getting really worried that this idea involving the enemies killing you goes way better with some sort of shooter game, not a platformer. And that's kind of scary because I really wanted to make a platformer, but we'll see. This idea, I think I really like this idea though. I think it fits really well into the theme. Become the enemy that kills you. How do enemies attack? Movement based, can be used by the player, easily readable, ground pounds, dash attacks. What if it was more like an arcade shooter, like a top-down kind of game? Maybe that would work better, though then we need to think about why you need to switch enemies. There needs to be some sort of reason to. So we could have like a rock paper scissors system where there's 3 different enemies which you can become, and then they each work better against another one, kind of. So each enemy has a weakness and a strength, and you have to play into those. Maybe let's go back to the drawing board and save this idea and explore it later. Okay, so some sort of end equals progression system is what we're looking at. So what other ways can we progress? So let's think about this. So we take on new abilities. That kind of links back into the enemy idea. Levels are dynamic, changes over time. What is ending? What is beginning? Roguelite nature. How can an end and beginning link back into a platformer? An end is a new beginning. Oof. Okay, again, not too worried about spending a long time on the design phase here. I'm kind of hoping to just have like a pretty chilled start to this game jam, really make sure I get a solid idea going and then try and make a mechanic around that, try and make the mechanics super quickly. I am going to lower the music slightly for me first. Got some lo-fi girl going on. Okay, let me know when that starts up again. Let me know how that sounds. Okay, let's try and focus in on something here. Player's death, death equals progression, corpse across level. So that's like the traditional way to make a platformer where death is progress. So what other ways can death be progress? So one of them was every time when you die to an enemy, you become that enemy. That's quite good. Though I don't think that plays to a platformer's strengths. So that's a challenge we need to try and overcome. An end is a new beginning. An end is a new beginning. Oh, I really like this idea though. I feel like platformers and this don't really go together unless I can find a good solution to that. That would be the ideal goal here. Okay, maybe we should take a break. Maybe we should go play some games or something instead. That's what I'm thinking. Let's have a look. These are all the games I've kind of been wanting to try recently that are from itch bundles that I bought a really long time ago. So we could get some Nuclear Throne up in here maybe. Nuke Throne, I played Super Hot recently quite a lot. That's been a really fun game. Such a great example of design direction really tying with the marketing and the art style and just the entire game all revolving around one singular idea. Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like a game that's kind of in Nuclear Throne's kind of aesthetic would work really well with the become the enemy that kills you idea. Maybe we just have to make a game like Nuclear Throne then. I mean, I'm not complaining. That would be a really fun game to make. I don't know. Has that got a lot of speedrunning potential? I don't know. It could well do, to be honest. Okay. I'm going to cut the stream there and I'm going to come back to this in a few hours, I think. I think that's the best decision. I'm going to let this like run around for my mind for a while and then see where that takes us. Okay, how does that sound with everyone? I think that's good. Okay, so thank you everyone for tuning in and I'll be back in a few hours and try and have another stab at this problem. Okay, see you guys.